The last thing that I think is really unique in the sandwich generation is grief. Grief starts long before our parents pass away. When we start to see our parents struggle, when we start to be really cognizant of there's something going on here, what we find is that we are really in a state of grief. And it bubbles up at different times. And being aware of that is important because as a parent, grief can really drag us down. And we know if we can't show up to our kids' needs with the joyful love that we want to give them at most times or the stability we want to give them, that's going to have an impact on them. So it's important to really be aware that this is going to be hard. This is going to hurt, but we can get through that. And what that does for our kids is that they start to see, you know, this is a part of life. And I know I feel safe with my mom or my dad. And even if they're struggling, they're still there for me. But if we find ourselves being dragged down, then we need to, again, go back to self care and step up to get what we need. If you need to work with a therapist or a coach or a support group, I totally recommend support groups. You know, get to that. Find what you need. One of the things that I found as I did a lot of research over this book that I wrote was that there's kind of two things that people were struggling with. One was stress. So
Oh,
did they feel
oh,
Hey,
hello?
hey,
oh, I can't hear you. Hello?
hi.
Uh-oh.
Hi. If I want to buy,
Okay, I'll just go on. So the stress, right? There's a continuum of stress. Do we have our stress managed? Do we have support that we need? And the other one was a continuum of knowledge, right? Things come up and we're like, oh, wait, dad's got to go on dialysis. I don't know anything about dialysis. So what the heck is that? And so we have to find people who can educate us about those other aspects. So it's really important to think about your, where are you on those two different um, continuum, because that can drag us down even more, and then our grief spirals out of control. And when there's been a lot of research out there about parents who are grieving and raising children. Um, Children who are raised by mothers who have significant depression have their own problems, right? So this is really a developmental key piece for your kids is being as stable as you can be. So if your grief is weighing you down, this is the time to take care of it and to deal with it. Burying it is not going to support you or support your kids. So I say this because we always think of grief as that's what's going to happen at the end. But I'm here to tell you that that starts when you become aware. You know, for me, it was seeing is having the car key conversation, and then along the way, different things showed up at different places, and I would break, and I had to find ways to pull myself back together. And it was going back to my systems and my teams and my support so that I could show up for both my parents and my kids, right? Really important. Um, Another thing around communication is how we talk to our parents, right? That we're seeing our parents lose a lot of their independence. And the tendency is to talk to them as if they were a toddler. And this is not at all effective, right? So when we think about how to communicate with our parents, it's being, if their cognitive level or their, and even if they don't have deficits in their ability to think through things, sometimes it's just overwhelming, and it's being very concrete and neutral when you're talking with them rather than talking to them like a toddler. And I raise this point because, again, talking about how this impacts your children, it was my children upon occasion who said, Mom, you're not being so nice to grandpa today. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, you're right. I'm not. I need to do better. So again, goes back to that whole legacy of love, that what are you transmitting to your kids? What are they going to pick up from this? And how are we all going to get through this being better for it?